Lorraine, shout out to Lorraine Lopez.
For?
She is the one who scheduled all today's guests, the 3 judicial candidates. So I want to give her a big shout out. She put this show together, and I'm going to let her introduce the first guest.
All right, our very first guest today is, well, you're a sitting judge now, currently,
Correct.
all right? So
Yes.
this is the Honorable Judge Brendan McGrath.
Okay.
He was appointed, former Inspector General for the City of Yonkers, appointed to the seat of City Court Judge by Mayor Spano,
Okay.
and is currently running for the spot that he is in.
Okay. Congratulations. And,
Thank you much.
Welcome to the show.
Sound effects and everything.
Yes. Johnny Limo said good evening to all.
Hey there, John. How are you?
So, go ahead, Lorraine. Start the questions off.
Oh, okay. I thought you would do okay.
I'm gonna let you start.
Now what? Check this out. You know what I did?
What did you do?
Since we have judges and there are certain things you guys cannot speak about, I went on the internet and I found 10 questions that we can ask the judge.
Oh,
Candidate.
see, there you go. Now let's kick it off with that. And she dressed the part too. She looks for a little judicial today.
I don't want to get on nobody's list. That's it. First of all, the basic question is, why are you running for judge?
Good question. So I have a 30-year career in public service. I started off in the New York State Assembly, working as a legislative director. I went to law school after that. From there, I went to the county attorney's office in Westchester. I worked with the Department of Social Services, helping them prosecute cases of abuse and neglect.
Mm-hmm.
From there, I went to I came to Yonkers, to the Corp Counsel's office for about 2 years, and then I was appointed to the Office of Inspector General. So, given the experience I have, I believe that I have the credentials to sit on the city court. The mayor was, he humbled me by the appointment. I wasn't sure that was going to happen, but when he asked me about it, and he wanted to meet with me, and he wanted to hear about all the things that I had done in my life that would bring me to
Qualify
this
you.
point. Yeah. So that was it, and then it was up to him, and he made the appointment, and obviously making the appointment knowing that I would have to run this year to get the full 10-year term.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I'm running for now. So yeah, I believe this is it's a progression in my legal career. It certainly is something that many lawyers aspire to, and I'm humbled by the appointment, and it's been a tremendous experience for about the 2 months that I've been sitting so far.
Now, one last question as far as the position. We try to educate people as much as possible on the show. So, what's the difference between city court judge and, say, county judge? There's
Right.
different cases that you'll hear.
Yeah. So for city court, we handle the basics of city life, right? So we got traffic court. We have city code violations. So if your grass is too high, if you're drinking in the park, those are city code violations. We have traffic. We have landlord tenant. It's a big part in Yonkers City Court. There's small claims in Yonkers City Court, and then there's a criminal part in Yonkers City Court. The difference between Yonkers Criminal Court and the county court is that we don't try felonies in Yonkers City Court. So that would be where the county court picks up.
So the person would see you for a bail hearing, and then after that they would go.
Right. So depending on the charge and how the DA wants to proceed, the DA may want to keep the charges. It might be charged as a felony.
Right.
But they may want to what they we call like a superseding misdemeanor. They may drop the charge so it ends up staying in Yonkers anyway. But if it's a hardcore crime, it's gonna end up in Westchester County.
Okay.
And that's the county court.
There are 3 positions open, I believe, right? And 5 candidates. I don't know if Karen Best is still a candidate.
She said she was running, according to her. When she was on the show, she said she was running. That's all I know.
Okay. And then you're running on a ticket with
Judge Daly.
Judge Daly, and Vereshchagel.
The other two guests that are coming.
And
up
then
today.
there's also another judge running who will be here. I think it's on March 22nd. I scheduled him.
Okay.
Dan Romano. He's very, very popular. Very
Okay.
popular out there too, getting a lot of traction.
Okay. So, what is your 10 questions that you can ask a judge? I'm about to learn something.
Me too.
I'm interested. I'm glad she did that.
All right. Can you explain your judicial philosophy in plain English?
Yeah, so it is really
Just pull the mic a little closer to you.
sorry. It is really the sum and substance of my entire existence. So I was born in Nershell. I went to Nershell High School. I have I went to SUNY Brockport. I all these experiences that I had that I mentioned, my legal experience, the legislature, the county attorney's office, all that. When I sit on a bench, I bring all that to me. So the philosophy is really, judges need to be compassionate. They need to see the world for what it is. We're not living life inside a bubble. So we take everyday experiences and we look at them. So it's compassion is one of the things I like to think I bring to the bench and is part of my philosophy. And the other things are what you learn along the way as far as being an attorney and practicing in court. Having spent a lot of time in family court, I know that a lot of the litigants are people who've just fell on hard times. And it's maybe it is the fault that their fault that they're there, but we need to look at them compassionately as we make determinations as judges.
Which leads me to this question. Well, let me scroll down because it's a two-part question.
Okay.
How do you define injustice, and how would you deal with injustice when you confront it in your courtroom?
Good question.
Yeah, injustice is, I think, when we talk about how law enforcement may abuse their authority. Injustice is when someone is treated in a way that I don't want to make it sound too basic, but it's in a way that's unfair. When someone comes to me and I see that the injustice has been perpetrated on someone, I will do my best to fix that. I will do my best to sort of right the injustice if it's possible. Again, the part of the questions that we can't really espouse upon.
Let's talk about what you're going to do in the courtroom.
Yeah, is what I would do in a particular case. But where injustice is out there all the time, and people are arrested for wrong reasons all the time. And this isn't the thing about bad cops or anything like that. This is the thing about, and it may be a prosecutor who has an axe to grind with somebody. Mm-hmm. But those are things that to me are injustices that will ultimately come to me in my capacity as a judge.
You got any questions?
No, I want you to ask your 10 questions. Yeah, I want. These are questions that I'm going to intercede, but I want to hear the questions there. These are very good.
Okay. How would you balance being an independent judge and an elected official?
The reason judges have 10 and 14-year terms are just that, just so you don't have to worry about, your Congress people have to worry about election every 2 years.
Yes.
So they get elected in November and they're worrying about re-election that next January. Mm-hmm. They're raising money, they're doing all that. So it's funny, but and only because I'm new on the bench, but Judge Daly has been sitting on a bench for 10 years. He hasn't been able to participate politically, which is a little bit of a disadvantage for a sitting judge. But that's the reason, because you want to maintain your independence. And it's an excellent question. But that's I think, the theory behind long judicial terms, so that you are not out there politicking from day one.
Yeah.
You're sitting there as an independent member of the judiciary, without regard to party or affiliation or anything like that.
So how would you handle conflicts of interest on the bench?
So a very recent example, I was in small claims court. I walked out, and the first case that got called was somebody I knew. So I told both parties that I know party A, and I feel like I can be impartial in this matter, but you know, I will leave it to the parties to decide whether or not that should I should recuse myself, or if they wanted to ask for another judge, and they did, and I thought that was fine. But conflicts of interest arise all the time. I will always err on the side of caution, and there are 7 judges in the city of Yonkers. There's always somebody else to take your spot if the conflict arises.
So what is that? 3 so far? 4?
It sounded like 10. I'm kidding.
Come on. Keep it going.
All right. How would you work to ensure equality for people of all backgrounds in your courtroom? But I think you answered that.
Yeah,
when you talked about go ahead.
Yeah, and it's a good question. Maybe I did touch on it before, but you know, the cases come before me, and like a small claims, the litigants tell their stories. I mean, and it's I'm not, you know, there is no, and I don't want to sound trite about this, but there is no color, there is no, there is no language barrier. You know, whatever it is. And people come with very serious problems to city court, and I take every case very seriously.
Now, can I interrupt? So
Yeah.
a lot of people in the black and brown community feel that, you know, there's a saying that justice is blind.
Right.
And a lot of people in the black and brown community feel like she, you know, peeks under the blindfold before she rules. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
Sometimes.
yeah.
So I don't know if you can speak to that, or just.
Well, it's look, that's just wrong. It's just, I mean, I'll say it. It's not. I'm not talking about a particular case, but the people that you elect, you should be very, very clear. Ask these questions. Ask all sorts of questions, that they don't have these types of biases. Judges, at a bare minimum, have to be impartial, but they do come to the bench with experiences and backgrounds and things like that. And so if you're going to elect a judge that you want to represent, you know, your community, you better be sure that they understand the community.
Now, you know, one of my challenges, and we've been doing a lot of judicial candidates in the last year, in the last year's election, but you can only ask them certain questions, and some of the candidates fall on that, I can't speak on that because I'm a judge, and it's like you can't really ask them about their record, and you can't ask them about something. So how do you determine, you know, how do you find out if a lot of them say they can't talk about that, and you know.
Right. So I have an extensive. I'm only a judge for 2 months, so I you know, I've ruled on a handful of cases.
Right.
But as Inspector General, as a county attorney, I have a record, and people can talk to people I've worked with. Those aren't confidential. Those aren't things that I can't talk about.
Right.
If somebody wanted to talk to me about a case that I worked on in the county attorney's office, I'd be happy to talk to them about that.
Right.
But I think that's how it's done. So you have to look at that person, do a little bit of background. You got to do a little bit of I don't want to say digging, but look at their credentials and see if they, you know, would they have a bent towards one side or another. You might be able to see that, and if you see it, you can ask about it.
Right. One of our listeners, Hector Santiago in Yonkers, has a question for you.
Hector.
He does the stop and shake.
Yeah.
He said, "What are your thoughts on the school to prison pipeline?"
Again, I think that's something that I don't have a. I'm gonna fall back on that answer. I think there's something to that. I think that the best thing we can do in the courts is, and there is, you know, the youth court used to be very active in the city of Yonkers. I think it's something that might, you know, we might need to do that again. Where, you know, Hector does a great job with stop and shake. So you're meeting the officers before they become involved in your life, for good or bad. But you know, it might not be a bad idea to have these kids in high school or even grade school involved in the court system to see how it works. And I do a mock trial program down at the Bronx courthouse It's called the Thurgood Marshall mock trial program,
Okay.
and it is tremendous. Gives 7th and 8th graders a look at a real criminal case. It's it's fictional names and stuff, but they get to see how the court system works. I'm not sure what the rate of whether those kids end up doing better than any other kids, but I think it does. I think it helps them tremendously. So I think exposure to the court system is always beneficial for everyone.
You got any more questions on your list, Lorraine?
Oh, I got a lot of them. Go ahead.
Okay, go ahead. Good. We want to get some of them questions in.
Well, one of them, one that's I always ask that I'm always curious about, but you've only got 2 months, so you probably haven't experienced it yet. Have you ever gone home and said, "Oh my God, that case," and thought about a particular case that you didn't feel iffy about, or you felt bad about?
No, and maybe it has something to do with the shortness of time that I've been on the bench. But again, I think that's something that if I feel that would be like talking about a particular case, and I wouldn't want to do that. But your question is, have I ever felt that way?
Yeah.
In the 2 months, I haven't. So that's just an honest answer.
Good.
On the county, you said on the county level. So, we've had a couple. I'm working on a book on police brutality, and that's something we deal with heavily on the show, because our community faces that nationwide. Have you been in? Have you had the privilege, or have you been involved in any of the police brutality cases? Or
No.
do you have any of that on the county level? Have you dealt with?
No. When I was in the county, I did only family court. So we did abuse and neglect cases, and in that capacity, I represented the Department of Social Services, Child Protective Service workers. So I have not had any legal experience with that.
Does a judge have a boss?
Yes. So there are administrative judges that oversee various levels of courts. So our court, the city court system, is overseen by Judge Sam Walker, who's a Supreme Court judge.
Okay.
And so he's the administrative judge for the city courts. And so I don't know if you'd consider him a boss, and I don't want to get in trouble, so I'll say he's my boss. But anyway, he certainly is the person in charge of the city courts, and make sure that things sort of run on time, and that all the cases are, that we're meeting our what we call standards and goals.
Now going back to Inspector General, when you was Inspector General, is there anything that you can say you leave with that you initiated or you did so well that you really? I'm sure you're proud of everything you did, but is there anything in particular that stands out?
Well, the thing about being Inspector General was, and it was sort of a joke, it's nobody wants to, when I became Inspector General, I had a lot of friends in City Hall. So you know where I'm going, right? So when I left it, people would turn the other way in the hallway. People would, sort of, if there was a lunchroom, I could clear it, but there wasn't. Anyway, so in Inspector General, I am proud because we had a good staff that worked with us. People who did, investigators. There were an accountant in the office. There was another attorney who worked with us. So I was really proud of the work that we did as a team. And to say that, and there were some big cases. The overstatement of school aid back in 2014 was something that took a lot of our office's time and energy. And there were a few others, but to say that, I'm proud that particular case, the overstatement of state aid, I don't know if you remember that, but it was like the $55 million error in accounting. It led to some changes at BOE, at the Board of Ed, that I think are helpful today. Sort of the consolidation of some services. I think I think there was some middle management that was missing. I think they've addressed that, and so that's not likely to happen again.
Well, the person that now is the Inspector General is a very dear friend of mine. I served with at the City Council many years ago.
Right.
or do you support him? Are you happy that he's in there?
Look, I think Liam's a great choice because he's got a few things, and I didn't really consider it until I heard him. I think it was either when the mayor swore him in. You know that he's a CPA, which is there are two things that you need to be Inspector General. You need to be either an attorney or a CPA. He's both, but he also brings this experience of Yonkers, of knowing Yonkers government in sort of an intimate way. And someone asked him a question whether or not he was too intimate with the city, but knowing Liam, I think it only works as a benefit for the people of Yonkers that he knows the government so well.
Now, as a sitting judge, back to the city has a new ordinance, panhandling. They're going to be. Do you know that those that are going to come in front of you are not going to have the money to pay those tickets?
Right, that might be true.
But then again, I'm thinking, if they are repeat offenders, you could, not you, but a judge can probably send them to get some type of treatment. And that was going to save their life. So, like...
Right, so not
what do you think?
Right, so not answering on any particular issue.
Yeah.
Right, so we're not talking about someone who's a panhandler.
Yeah.
Anybody who comes into our court that is, has a mental health issue, that is seems or appears to be under the influence, or maybe they don't show up for a couple of times because they're using. The court does have the ability to refer those individuals to the appropriate treatment programs, and that happens. And you say something that's really important. That may save someone's life. It may.
I think it will.
The court may catch someone at the point in their life when they need that.
Yeah.
Let me piggyback off that. My partner he's not here today, Damon K. Jones. He's a 30-year veteran of the Westchester Corrections and the head of Blacks in Law Enforcement of America. One of the questions he always asks, speaking personally as a correction officer, but and he sees it firsthand with the new bail reform. Westchester County Corrections had a lot of programs to help inmates when they were in there. Right. Now with the bail reform, which the bulk of the people sitting in there was sitting in there because they couldn't afford bail. Right. I believe that the money that was spent, because there's some figure like $100,000 to house an inmate for a year or something, that we need to utilize some of that money in creating programs. Like these programs help them when they're in, but now some of them won't be in. We need some of these programs outside, and
right.
maybe a preventative measure to help prevent them from going in the first place.
Right. Well, there's again, without getting, I'm not going to get bogged down in the bail reform law, but you're right. The point is that where people used to be remanded,
right?
Now they're not. Now they're what we call ROR. They're released on their own recognizance, and they're out in the community. But the court still tracks those cases regardless. I mean, and so the court does have the ability to refer a particular individual to a program. And so when they come back, because they're ROR, they come back, they can then give us an update.
Okay.
On how they're doing. Are they attending there? Are they attending? Are they, those sorts of things. And those will go towards, and again, not talking about any case in particular,
right.
But the judge will then say, okay, John's working towards a program. Maybe he finished a program.
Right.
So that helps when they're making a final determination on the sentence.
Now, there's very little. I mean, we only got 2 hours, and I got 3 candidates. So y'all each got a little more than a half an hour. So it's not, but so much you can learn in a half an hour.
Okay.
So for people,
but enough for the
listen,
people.
But listen,
yes.
But for people who listening, they want to know more about you.
Right.
Maybe you want to get involved in your campaign, or they just want to be able to read up more. Right. Is there a website, social media, people?
Right. So I gotta be really honest with you. Before January, I wasn't on Facebook. I wasn't on Instagram. I wasn't, you know what? I had.
He was Inspector General. You know,
Right.
they sit up in an office all the way in the top of City Hall,
right. That's right.
locked up in a dungeon far away.
I had email. That was
right.
Anyway. So, but now I do. I have there's Judge McGrath. Judge Brendan McGrath is my Facebook, and people can go there. You know, if you have a question, you can ask a question. Again, people need to understand that I can't answer everything, but if there's a question, certainly that I can answer, I will.
Right.
You can learn about me, you know, about what I'm doing during my campaign. You can learn about it on Facebook, and I think that has some other might be a direction to a website as well.
Okay.
And it's important to note that he was appointed by the mayor. He's currently sitting judge. He's running for election, and he is the Democratic Party's endorsed candidate.
So since there was last year, since we had a lot of judicial candidates on, and there's so many things I can't ask you. I came up with 3 questions that have nothing to do with the campaign or anything.
All right.
Just to ask you, just for the heck of it.
Yeah.
So if your house was on fire, you could only grab 3 things. What would they be?
My wife, my son, and my daughter.
Ah, good. If you were a superhero, who would you be and why?
That's a good one.
Inspector General, the Invisible
Yeah,
Man.
no. I'm gonna answer it. You know, growing up, I always loved Superman. I mean, and I just felt like, you know, he was, you know, he good versus evil. You know.
Right.
So yeah, I'll say Superman.
Okay. Actually, there's only 2. I couldn't think what the third
No,
one was.
there is no third.
Okay, so
place.
there was just 2. So there's just 2. I asked all of them because it breaks up the monotony.
That's
You're
right.
not going to get these questions from anywhere else
That's right. You're
on
right.
the campaign trail.
I welcome you.
Yeah.
No, it's nice.
Yeah. So is there anything, more importantly, is there anything we have not asked you that you would like to speak on as far as your platform, about you as a person, about why people should vote for you? Anything that we haven't actually want to add on?
Sure. I think, you know, I've been living in Yonkers for over 20 years.
Okay.
Raised my kids here. Plan on staying here for the rest of my life. I think that you know, in the jobs I've had up until now, I've always approached it that this is my home. This is where I want my kids to live. I want them to raise their families here too.
Right.
So if people are concerned about how I'm going to be as a judge, I'm going to be as a judge like I am as a dad, a parent, a volunteer coach, anything else. I'm looking out for the community. I'm making sure that people are safe, that the community is safe, and that that, you know, Yonkers at the end of the day is a place we can all be proud of.
And last question I have for you, I don't know if Lorraine has any more.
No.
Who is Brandon McGrath the person? Not the candidate, not the judge.
Right.
Who's Brandon the person?
Right. So what I love to do is I coach my son's CYO basketball team. I've done that. He's 16. I've done that since he was 5. I like to play basketball.
What position? What's your position?
Really? So I'll be a shooting guard, let's say. All right, in the best world. In any case, I enjoy that. I play the guitar. You won't see me at a bar, but I play for fun, for amusement. I have I have 2 kids. They're 16 and 18 years old. My daughter's in college. So that's a big part of my life. You know, we visit my daughter at school, you know, occasionally. But yeah, I'm a family man. Enjoy sports. Play fantasy football.
Do you have any pets?
I don't. But I grew up every year of my life. I had a dog until I moved out of my parents' house.
Ah.
And my wife is allergic, but we've found breeds that are, you know, hyperallergenic, and you know, we're working on
You're
it.
considering it?
Yes.
You said sports, Yankees or Mets?
Oh, Mets. I'm not gonna. I see you got a hat on. So
No. But
I
that's
tell you
that's
this.
just, you know, some of us wear these hats. They're hats.
I know.
You
I know.
The Yankee hat is the hat to wear.
It is. It is, and there's no doubt.
Yeah.
But I I own the Mets. I like them. I know it's a tough time for them right now.
I was a big fan of the Darryl Strawberry, Dwight Gooden era.
Yeah.
I was a very big fan.
Well,
of
that was an era that came off a very low point,
right,
from the late '70s into the early
Miracle
'80s, and
Mets,
then they drafted
the amazing
Strawberry
Mets,
and Gooden. They got Keith Hernandez. They got Gary Carter, and that team. The sad part about it was they only won one World Series.
Yeah,
it was tough, but hey, they won one.
Football, Giants, Jets.
Giants.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. You said you like to play basketball. Knicks or Nets?
Knicks.
Okay.
Knicks.
I'm a lifelong Knicks fan. A lot of heartache there.
Very,
a lot of heartache there.
I tell you what, if you say, currently, could I name,
the players?
A bunch of Knicks?
I probably couldn't either right now.
No, I was when Ray Williams was there, Bill Cartwright. Those. I mean, those are teams that I when I was real little watching and really loved them. Like
I've been a fan since Bernard King.
Yeah.
I love the Patrick Ewing, John Starks, Anthony Mason, Charles Oakley era. Oh,
that was great.
That was like when you knew.
That series against Houston.
Even when Jordan beat us, when he left the arena, he knew he was in a game. He got beaten.
That's right. That's right.
You didn't come through that middle at all.
That's right.
Anything else we didn't ask you? Anything else you want people to know about you?
I think this was great. I appreciate you guys having me on, and like I said, if there's something that people didn't hear that they want to know about, they know how to get me through Facebook. Message me there, and I'll let everybody know what I can.
Okay.
And if you're a Democrat and you're registered to vote in the city of Yonkers, folks are going out there with their petitions, knocking on doors.
When is the petition start?
Yeah, so right before I came here today, I was petitioning most of the day. So it started on the 25th.
Okay, 25th. Okay.
And then it goes until the end of March.
Okay, the end of March. So we'll know who's on the ballot at the beginning.
Early April.
April.
Or sometime in April. Right.
Okay.
Right, when it all gets settled out. Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, I wish you well.
Thank you so much.
It was a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you.
And I wish you well.
Okay.
And I just became a Democrat after many years as a Republican, so I can say I'm going to vote for you. I'm really excited about that. I'm so excited. Yeah.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.